So Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, came up with a proposal to cut the city's deficit to more than $1 billion deficit down. And it was shot down by the aldermans. Great job. Then the aldermans came up with their own plan to try to bring the budget down. And he didn't like their plan. So let's see exactly what the aldermans had in their proposal and why Brandon Johnson didn't like it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Let's hit it.
The city budget battle over at City Hall is heating up in a big way, with more than half of City Council signing a proposal that tosses out key components of Mayor Johnson's plan. CBS News Chicago's Lauren Victory live outside City Hall to break down the new ideas from these alders. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Chris. It feels like ages ago with all this snow, but about 2 weeks back, I stood in the same spot outside City Hall telling you about how the Finance Committee shot down the mayor's budget proposal and how the mayor shot back with a request that they come up with ideas of their own. Well, they have, and just delivered a 13-page letter to the mayor's office yesterday. In it, 26 of 50 alders write, quote, "We must choose to lead this government responsibly, and we must make that choice now." The mayor previously said he'd veto any budget that includes a garbage fee increase. Nevertheless, this alternative budget from the alders nearly doubles the collection rate, arguing it hasn't gone up since 2016. They also suggest raising the liquor tax and decreasing legal spending on external law firms.
So this increase in garbage collection fees. Now, down here in the great state of Texas, especially in the rural area that I live in, we have like garbage companies, independent garbage companies that pick up trash on our street. I think it may be two or three of them. I think it's still two left. When I first moved here, it's about three, four, five of them, but now I just think it's like two of them that's still around. Anyway, my point is, fees have went up since we've lived in this house. That's all I want to say. So if Chicago's fees haven't went up since the teens, the 20 teens, then yeah, that's a problem because I've been here about 7 years and our garbage fees have went up a couple of times. So that seems like a problem that Chicago has put themselves in. You have, as much as we don't like fees going up, you got to understand, you got to take in consideration inflation. Always understand that the dollar bill loses value every year, anywhere from 3 to 7% each year, the dollar. So, in other words, that whatever you bought for $1 last year, now now that dollar will not pay for it. So the dollar lost the value to where, like, let's say the candy was still $1, but your dollar bill is only worth like 93 cents. You see what I'm saying? So you can't buy that same piece of candy. Or you can say that, what I'm saying, that candy now was $1 last year, now it's $1.07 last year. However you want to put it. But yeah, as much as we don't like fees going up, you got to take in consideration inflation. And that's why, like a lot of things, most things that you pay for, buy, subscribe to, they go up. Sometimes things go up for fees because of, because of how much it costs to run the company or this, that, and the third. But a lot of times it's just about inflation. That's why a lot of jobs give out or supposed to give out like what you call it, cost of living raises. And it'd be like anywhere from 3%, 2%, 3%, because again, inflation, lowers the value of the dollar that you had last year. That's why you need to invest. Stop putting your money in the bank in the savings account and just leaving it there. Find you a high interest, money market account or something where you can put your money in and and it grows a lot more than that 3%. Anyway, let's continue.
They want a complete rejection of the mayor's big idea for generating revenue, his head tax. The alders say charging companies a monthly fee per employee is a disincentive to economic growth. Their plan also calls for spending on pension payments and other debts. The mayor was asked his thoughts on this alternative budget during a press briefing yesterday.
So before we get to Mayor Chickenhawk, complete rejection of head tax. Head tax, this man was talking about charging certain companies $21 per employee, a tax. If you got, I forgot how many employees, but if you got a certain number of employees, he was going to charge those companies $21 just to hire them people. Which some companies it could cost millions in just a head tax, and they rejected it because it's like, how? What do you think these companies are going to do? They're going to mess around and not hire people. The service is going to be terrible, and they might end up shuttering their businesses, or they're just going to move out of Chicago and go somewhere else that's not going to charge them to hire people and run a proficient and efficient business.
Unfortunately, when you crunch the numbers,
Hmm.
their proposal is almost $700 million short, and it relies almost entirely on regressive revenue and fees on working people.
During that briefing, the mayor continued to defend his head tax, saying it'll only affect about 3% of corporations. And he says business leaders need to put more skin in the game. The mayor did add that he's open to negotiating the details of how that head tax would work. Chris, the clock is ticking. This budget needs to be buttoned up by the end of the year. I'm Lauren Victor reporting live outside City Hall, CBS News, Chicago.
Lauren, thanks very much.
So, touch on a couple of points. First, say it would affect 3% of the businesses. Let's say if you have 97 mom and pop shops, okay, but 3% of the businesses in your city employ 500 people or more. Let's say that, or maybe 1,000 people or more. Let's say if the head tax only, if, and this is just a scenario, if the head tax only affects companies that hire 1,000 people or more, and you're trying to hit them with this tax, and so only 3% of the companies in your city will be affected. That is a large percentage if you have compared to, so let's say it's 3,000 employees, just throwing a number out there. I probably think I'm gonna touch on it a little deeper on a different video I'm gonna do. But if you have 3 companies hire 1,000 people, that's 3,000 employees. Let's say you have 97 small or mom and pop shops. Let's say you got 97, small or mom and pop shops, and they hire 10 people. Well, that's 970 people compared to 3,000 people. So, or let's say if you have companies that, let's say some of them companies hire 100 people or more. Let's say half of them hire 100 people or more. Say 50 of them. So 150, what's that? 5,000. So that's 5,000 employees compared to 3 companies that have 3,000 employees. You see what I'm saying? And then I'm like I said, just throwing out numbers out there. So say 3% hire 10,000 people, and the rest of the companies hire 10,000 or 20,000 people. That's still a large percentage of people that work in your city that could potentially lose their job when those companies move out or go somewhere else that's not going to charge that tax. You get what I'm saying? And those are just little small numbers. I haven't really like crunched big numbers yet, but that's a lot. Because what I heard like in one video that we talking about 70, $100 million these companies are going to pay per year just to hire people, and they're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. It does not make feasible economical sense to do it. So yeah, it's just not saying, well, just 3% of the companies, not 3%. Now, if you would have said 3% of the employees in Chicago that's being affected, then maybe you can be like, okay, maybe I get what he's saying, but he just said 3% of the companies, which means, and they probably are hiring the most people. Basically, they're hiring the most people in the city. But but Mayor Johnson is not wording it like that. Second thing I want to touch on, the $700 million shortfall that he said was in the proposed budget of the Alder people, or the Alders as they call them now. Mayor Johnson, you basically what you're saying, you're pretty much telling on yourself. Because basically what you're saying is their plan would work if you didn't take in all the migrants in Chicago. I'm just saying, why do I say that? Good question. In the past, I looked this up myself. In the past 4 years, it says as of early 2025, the city has reportedly spent about $638.7 million on migrant aid, which includes contract services, shelters, etc., since the beginning of 2022. 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, 4 years. And I say 4 years because that's around about the time, Biden, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, Biden said, hey, all you migrants can come on in. It's another investigation found that the city has spent more than 612 million providing emergency shelter and related services to migrants. It said as of March 2024, some sources reported the cost since 2022 was nearly 300 million, citing earlier stages of the crisis. For 2023 alone, the city paid at least 138 million to house, feed, and care for migrants, with roughly 59 million of that coming directly from Chicago taxpayers. And now you want to raise the tax on people who had nothing to do with the decision that you made on bringing those people to your city, or or accepting those people into your city. We're not going to get into the moral and the legal and all that kind of stuff when it comes to these migrants. The thing is, you didn't have the money. You didn't have the resources. Now, you thought you did because daddy government made you believe that you bring the migrants in, they was going to give you that money back. And they didn't. And so now you had to spend the money from your own budget, but you don't say that. You don't say how daddy government, daddy Biden pretty much screwed y'all and didn't give y'all the money that was pretty much promised to y'all. You won't bring that up. But hey, all you want to do is say how bad the boogeyman is, the red boogeyman, the orange boogeyman is. But anyway, they say what these numbers include and don't include. They say the 300, good Lord, the $638.7 million and the approximate $612 million totals include vendor contracts, shelter operations, food, staffing, and other aid costs associated with the city's migrant mission. The lower approximate $300 million figure represents earlier accounts up to early 2024 and includes funding from city, state, and federal sources. The $138 million number from 2023 reflects invoices paid through December 15th of 2023 by the city, but does not necessarily capture all longer term or ancillary costs like public school costs, sanitation, longer term housing support, social services. Remember, they was paying people who had like these rental properties that were empty. They were paying these people rent like well above market value to house these people too. Don't forget that. It said the total change over time as more data comes in. What was nearly 300 million in 2024 is now over 600 million as of 2025. Now, I want to kind of break down what was spent per year so you can get a real deep understanding. Again, Brandon Johnson said the Alders proposal was $700 million short of fixing the budget. Okay, let's see where that 630 something $million went. They say between the months of August and December of 2022, $17.5 million, the city reportedly spent this amount to house, feed, clothe, and otherwise care for asylum seekers during the initial months of the influx. Then from January, then the full year, January to December 2022, what's that, $255.7 million by the end of 2022. The city projected costs totaling this amount per a report from the then mayor's office summarizing shelter assistance cost. In 2023, it was about $138 million was spent. This is the amount city officials say was paid in 2023, invoices through December 15th, 2023 to house, feed, and care for migrants. Of that, more than 59 million came directly from city taxpayer funds. So city taxpayers spent almost $60 million on something they had nothing to do with, didn't want, on things that came and took resources from citizens in the city. Isn't that crazy? So the rest, about $78.8 million, came from state and federal grants. See what I'm saying? They thought they're going to get more money and they didn't get it. And then through early 2024, about 295 to 299 million. As of spring of 2024, combined expenditures since August of 2022, city, state, federal funding reached nearly 300 million. Breakdown from that total: 143 million for federal grants, 80 million from state grants, 72 million from cities corporate fund. So again, 72 million from city corporate. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I tell y'all in other videos. This money is already, city money is already allocated for certain things. Like I'm gonna say that 72 million was probably allocated for people coming in from, migrants coming in, asylum seekers coming in, because it's a sanctuary city. So you had to have some kind of money set aside. The issue is you can't spend it on nothing else unless everybody agree on it. So everybody probably didn't agree on it, so they'll say, hey, instead of going through all that bullcorn, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let them come in and we're gonna spend that money and then put that money back into the system. So that way when it's time to do the budget again, we'll have $72 million we can spend on something else. They don't care about the migrants, they don't care about the US citizens, the Chicago citizens. All they worry about is that money that was just sitting there and not being used. And I explained that like in the last Brandon Johnson video I did. They say as of early 2025, $638.7 million on migrant aid was spent. So what's included is, say, the lower period figures 2000, let's say 22, 23, and 24 mostly reflect direct costs for shelters, food, staffing, and other immediate aid. Remember, I told you they got to pay for staffing. They got to pay people to do this stuff. Can't volunteer. Through vendor contracts, city funds, grants. For example, in 2023, the city paid outside vendors $127 million to provide daily shelter and services. You couldn't even get vendors from inside the city. Amazing. The $290 to $299 million total by early 2024 combined city, state, and federal funding. Let's say the $638.7 million figure in 2025 reportedly includes a broader set of migrant aid costs, likely more than just shelter and vendor costs, though the public available summary does not break down exactly which services or time periods are in that total. You know why? Because of only a small percentage of it was taxpayer money. So they probably told them what taxpayer, you could probably get a breakdown of what taxpayer money went to, but that state and federal money, they ain't gonna tell you. Probably don't think they owe you that explanation. It said many indirect or ancillary costs are not captured in those numbers, like additional expenses by city agencies, public schools for migrant children, sanitation, healthcare. Yeah, they reopened schools. They had schools that was closed down in the hoods, and they reopened them for these people to be housed in. And they actually send these youngins to school, I guess. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Brandon Johnson, there is your 700 million right there. If you did what was right for the citizens of Chicago, you would have 700. You would have the money you need to help fix that budget, but you don't. So now you're trying to tax the very people who you hurt in the first place. I don't know when this man's term is going to be up. Like seriously. But I'm sure that there are citizens who can't wait to line up to vote this dude out because he's making no sense. He's pushing a narrative and won't let go. That's what I understand about some of these Democrats is that what you're talking about is failing. Makes no sense to everybody else, but you still push it. So which lets us know that there's something deeper than what you're talking about. But eventually it will come to light, and that's what it's doing right now. But anyway, tell me what you think about this story. Leave your comments below. Share it with the world. Let's have an intelligent conversation. You know how we do around here. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Those 4 things cost you maybe a couple of minutes out of your day, but it means the world to us here at this channel. With that being said, I leave you in peace and love, and I'll see you on the other side.